What's up, guys? I'm your host, John from Nicole.
I'm Shane from Heads and Tails,
And we are the League of Breeders. Welcome to the show tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. While you guys are here, I'm going to pull up Nicole. She's our guest tonight from Ladytis Exotics. If you guys are here watching, I'm sure you guys know who she is already. But without further ado, let me bring her on. Nicole, what's good?
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Man, I'm so excited to have you. Like, you're one of my favorite people in the entire hobby industry. Like, every time I hear you speak, like, I feel like I learned something, which is really nice because I know that's what you're super like. That's what you find like really important is education and proper husbandry and care and things like that. So, welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you both.
So before we really get started, I want to say what's up to everybody in the chat. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. So let's see who came first. Got Darlene up here first. Thank you so much, Darlene.
Hey, darling.
Tammy, what's good?
Hey, Tam.
Ken up in the house. What's up, Ken?
Hey, Ken.
Stan the man.
Stan, what
up? Got Lauren from Multiplayer Morris. What's up?
What
Hello,
up?
hello.
Morbid. What's up?
What's going on, Morby?
Cole Waltz. What's
up,
good,
Cole?
dude? Congrats on getting monetized, Cole. Yeah, that's super
That's
awesome.
cool.
Super proud of you, man.
Yeah.
Kira Shea, what's good?
Carrie
Take care.
Darlene, hello. Wayne and Alice from Serpentine.
Hey, Wayne and Alice.
Let's see. Who else we got up here?
Marshall NoCo Reptiles.
Oh,
What
do we
up?
got someone new? Someone new?
So,
Where Marshall Noco, North Colorado. I'm assuming, to be honest. First time catching the live episode. Well, thank you so much for coming out. So I got Shane from Heads and Tails,
good one.
Nicole from Ladytis Exotics, and I'm John from Ankline. So make sure you try to sub. I'm not sure if we have our links posted or not, but everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight. So Nicole, I just want to hear a little bit about yourself. You know, who are you? Tell us about Ladytis Exotics. You know, how long have you been keeping? You know, kind of some basics about you today.
Yep. So, I'm Nicole Tisdale. And 3 years ago, I established the business of Ladytis Exotics. However, I have been a keeper of reptiles for more than 32 years. My initial reptile of choice was ball pythons. And I would say about 5 years ago, longer than that. I would say about 10, 15 years ago, I started to have interest in reticulated pythons. But of course, you know, with the stigma of them out there, I took plenty of years educating myself about them, making a personal decision and choice if it was the right animal for me before I did it. And then I got into reticulated pythons. Probably it's been a little over 4 years now.
Okay.
Also have boa constrictors. I have an Asian water monitor. I have green tree pythons, tegus. I have turtles. I have a carpet python, corn snake, and I'm tarantulas, and I'm a ball python breeder as well.
Nice.
I didn't choose to become a ball python breeder until about 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
Now, I know that you do have a Tegu.
I have two tegus.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, I seen your boy. How old is your boy?
That's
Are they
my
both boys,
girl.
or is it a boy and a girl?
This time. So the one that you talking about the one you saw recently?
Mm-hmm.
That's Gigi. That's the girl. The boy is still down. Kobe is still down. So Kobe.
I seen a short where it had jowls. It was one of the shorts had jowls.
Too. They just not as big as the boys. So if you see them side by side, you would see that Kobe jowls are way more bigger than.
No kidding. See, I have a Tegu too, but she's still very young, so she doesn't have anything. She's just real slender.
The males and the females until they get about 3.
3. Okay, cool. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So I had first gotten started on all of your stuff, it was, I think the first episode was with Bosa in it, but so I mean, I really enjoyed that episode. And then the very next episode, I want to say, wasn't that Kevin McCurley in there? And then I seen Chris from BNS Reptilia in there. Right away with those three, I was not only hooked, but I was learning so quickly, you know, and I just really enjoyed watching your shows. So for anybody out there, make sure you guys check out her 2 shows. She has 2 Peas in a Podcast, and oh dang it,
Reptiles and Cocktails.
Reptiles and Cocktails. Yeah. I wanted to say Snakes and Cocktails for some reason.
I'm not gonna lie, I love I mean all your stuff, but like the chemistry that you and Dre have on your 2 Peas in a Podcast is so amazing. Like I love it. I just wish I were up that early every day or every time you do your show, because it's so interesting. You guys pick it like a topic and you kind of like talk about that in incredible depth. And like I said, you know, there's always something to learn in there. And then you guys, you know, might even have opposition or opposing like views or different views on things. So that's what makes it really awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because that's our real relationship. So Dre is one of, so I always say that, you know, people, once you get to know me, you either going to cling on to me or run the hell away, because I am who I am. And Dre was one of the people who, in the reptile community, when we started like communicating, because he was helping me a lot getting just how I wanted my YouTube platform to be, what I should be doing, what type of cameras I should use, and things like that. And that's how we initially connected. And then our bond just became closer and closer. And then, of course, we keep multiple species of animals. So both of us have a very practical way of keeping, but we also know that there are exceptions to every animal, that every animal have different personalities. So Drake the challenging animals, and so do I. And so that's where we kind of, you know, mesh together. But there's a big difference because I'm almost 50 and Dre's still a little boy. So how we view the world and some of the topics, that's so the energy that y'all see is real. Me and Dre fuss all the time. So the energy is real, but we respect each other so much that we can have those disagreements and still educate one another, because he teaches me a lot, and you know, of course, I teach him a lot, and we kind of bounce that energy off each other. But it's a real sister brotherhood relationship, so he knows me pretty much, and so it's easy. The chemistry is real.
How long have you guys known each other?
So I started off, I was adminning the Black Reptile group, and I started adminning that back in 2020. And so that's where we first connected, from that group. And so I would say we started communicating back in 2020. And then we never met in person until February 2022. Okay,
nice. No, that's really cool. What's good, Chris? Thank you for coming by.
Hey, Chris.
What's good? So you've got a lot of different species of animals. Do you have like you said like, is ball pythons like your favorite, or do you have like something different like retics that's your favorite? Or
so ball pythons are not my favorite. So ball pythons are where I first started keeping reptiles. That was my first animal to keep. So I appreciate the ball python for educating me on the basics of reptile keeping when it comes to a snake. My favorite animals would be my reticulated pythons and my Asian water monitor by far. And the so the big lizards and the retics by far are my favorite.
Okay. Which one of your retics is your favorite?
I don't have a favorite, so it's tough. I will tell you this. Okay, so let me say this. I can't say that it's a favorite, but I have a bond with all the animals that came to me through Kevin McCurley because of my relationship with Kevin and who he has done for me in the hobby. So with that being said, Larry, the Asian water monitor, we're bonded because of that. And my golden child cow, Star. Both are from Nerd. So I would say that they're probably my two. I can't say my favorite, because my favorite reticulated python is the one y'all see the most, my Motley Mochino, and from Jim Jolly. So I would say if there's a favorite as far as personality, it's him. Like he's my puppy. He's my puppy retic. Come on, go here, do there. He can stay out for all day long without doing anything like dangerous to himself or anybody, you know. So he would probably be the one that I like to engage with the most, but I love them all. Like I can't imagine life without none of them.
Yeah. So I gotta check up on Larry. How's Larry doing?
Larry is doing
amazing. I don't know if
amazing.
everybody knows, but
Yes.
we had like a little incident recently.
Big incident.
Yeah,
You don't have to order it down.
Big incident. Yeah.
So yeah, we talked. Me and my husband was talking about that the other day. Like, y'all, if they and so there it goes. That was the pain. So y'all hear me share my relationship with Kevin, and Kevin opened this about depression. And animals are everything to him. So he checks on Larry all the time. If Larry did not survive that scenario, I could not bring it to my heart to have to call him and tell him that he was no longer here.
Yeah.
So I look at Larry and I say it was a miracle, because that lizard, if y'all could have seen what we picked up, he was gone. And I just feel like, you know, you do all you can until you can't do anymore. And we did all we can, and he turned around, and I'm just grateful to God for it, because that's just not one of the animals. That's one of the animals I have to get my full life term from, because of the connection. And he is the water monitor that I have.
Yeah. So can you just tell us a little bit about what happened for anybody that didn't kind of catch that video yet?
Yep. So it was the day that I was supposed to do my very first live reptile show recording for the Maryland Reptile Show up in York, PA. And we got up that morning. It was one of the coldest days of our winter. That night, I always check even though the monitors would tell you what's going on, always check the animals. So that night we checked them, and that morning Michael went and checked Larry, and just no need to go in his enclosure. So we went and we started to drive, and then his temperature must have dropped to a point where it started to do the alert to say, hey, temperatures are getting into abnormal conditions or whatever. So we started driving back, but we like 55 minutes away. And so when we go in there, Larry is cold, like he's frozen cold, like literally.
Yeah.
When Michael went in there, I said, Michael, go check on him. So Michael go in there first, and Michael is very easy going. When Michael starts to show hysterics, then you know something is like not right. So he's like, Ma, he's not moving, and Larry never not moving his enclosure. If you go in Larry's enclosure, if you go and say Larry at the window, he's going to move. He's going to come. Like he's that active. If he sleeps, you can hear him. Even if he don't get all, you're going to hear him like move around or something. And then Michael touched his tail, and Larry don't like nobody touching his tail, and he went touch his tail, didn't move. And so he said, Mommy. And so I went in there, and I, of course, pick him up. He was cold. So what happened was his whole unit failed. So at some point, the power surge, and we have this thing called the ting that lets you know if it's something called like a brown wire, if it's a fire, if it's anything going on in the electrical throughout the house, it will alert you. But typically when that goes off, it restores itself. It will say all power has been restored. But for whatever reason, Larry's power was not restored. And that was, like I said, the coldest day. And all his heat elements must be in place because he is in the garage, him and the Tagles. But the difference between him and the Tagles is the Tagles are up towards the front. So even if everything fails, they're getting that extra heat source that comes from the house, where Larry is in the further in towards the garage door. So everything built for him, all of his heat is on that one little section. So if the water fails in his enclosure, which that was the first thing that went, his basket light was still there, but the basket only covered his basket area. Everything else had failed. And so his temperatures had gotten very, very cold. So we almost lost him.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm not super sad. I'm not gonna lie. That was the way that you handled that was probably one of the most incredible things that I've ever seen. Because watching that video, I was like, oh man, like he's gone. You're trying to get him to be responsive. Yeah, I mean, so
it's just like a mom, right? So let's say if that was your child, that's what kicks in. And then my heart and my mind had already accepted that he may be gone and never, come back. But what I'm going to do is all I can to bring him back. So knowing that, a lizard has the opportunity to shut his body temperature down for a certain amount of time before he actually expires. My prayer was that I caught it in a time where he was in the middle of that purgatory, that part before he actually was definitely gone from the world. They will look dead. If you go look at a Tegel, honestly, in brumation, a Tegel in brumation, other than a little eye twitch, looks dead. But they're still warm. They're not cold. Larry was frozen cold. Like you touched him, he was frozen. He was the temperature of the outside. So we went upstairs to my bedroom, put him in my tub, turned on the jets on the tub, and started to gradually increase the temperature on the water, and just prayed. That's what I did. I screamed, I prayed, I screamed, I prayed, and then I kept yelling his name and letting them know don't do this. And then all of a sudden you saw his little tail move, and that's when I started recording. When I started to see that he had a fighting chance, I could not record anything before that. I was literally a wreck. Like when my son called my husband, all my husband said he could hear was me screaming to the top of my lungs. So it was no way of thinking of go get the camera, and that was not even a thought. It was when I realized he was going to come to, I said, this is something that, like my husband said, you should document for people if that ever happened. Because many of people, and he made a good point, would have just said he's gone and left it at that, and, missed that window of chance to bring him back.
Yeah. Man, that type of stuff is going to give me nightmares. No joke. Hey, real quick. So I know you just went to Tinley. Obviously, the greatest show of all time. We all know that.
I've never been there yet.
So both of us had grown up in the Midwest.
True.
And you went to Chicago. I know you ate some food. What was your favorite meal? What was your favorite place when you were out there?
Ooh, all right.
So that's the thing. When we normally at Tinley, I don't normally go out to eat. Now, the last time I went in October, we went downtown, and the pizza at McDonald's was really, really good. We like the pizza. I love the chicken. Anywhere I have chicken in there, it's good. Even if you go to a Buffalo Wild Wings, the chicken in Chicago is different. But it's like I don't normally get to go out and eat a lot because we're so busy with the show and seeing each other.
Yeah.
Seeing the turn up at Derek's house, which I know Derek invited us too, but we're not at Tinley, so we can't go. But October, we gotta be there. We gotta be there.
Yep, we're aiming for October.
It's an experience that you can't. It's like a big family reunion. I was reading somebody's comment today on an NARBC page where someone was complaining that it was too crowded, and then somebody said it's the family reunion. It's your reptile family. It's a lot of us, and we all in one place. Appreciate that, and that's what you appreciate, and you also appreciate building those solid relationship with your the people that you probably admired growing up, or the YouTuber that you probably didn't think that you would ever meet. You become friends with these people at Tinley.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy because so with the reptile community and just the fact that a lot of us are family, you know what I mean? I mean, now I'm in Texas. I wouldn't have known Shane if it weren't for the reptiles, and now I'm out here in Texas, and life's a trip, you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of going with it, but I wouldn't have met him. I wouldn't have met you and Keys and Ray and all these wonderful, amazing people and everybody in the chat. You know what I mean? But the fact that I get to meet so many people is such a rewarding thing for me, and even doing the podcast, having people on every week is really exciting because most people I'm having on are people I've had conversations with behind the scenes or met in Hair Down Fridays or whatever, so it's something that's really rewarding because I know a lot of people that I know right now are probably going to be friends for 5, 10, maybe lifetime friends. You know what I mean? So it's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's interesting also. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it definitely has created a whole family outside of your own family, So it's definitely amazing.
Yeah, and I was gonna add to it as it's interesting that we all have the one thing in common of loving reptiles. and then you end up finding so many other things that are in common with other people, and you're just like, oh wow, I did. Oh, okay, yeah, we can bond on that too, and it's
That
just very
all of us
interesting.
have some type of social disorder or
Yeah.
emotional disorder, and it's an environment where, you know, even for me, how people assume that, you know, a person can have it all together, right? And most of us do in a lot of areas of their lives. But I tell people all the time, I know what reptiles do for me in my anger management, you know, and
Right.
I need them for that. I don't know what else I need them for because they provide so much comfort for me, but I know that I need them for that. I have met so many people who wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for a snake. It wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for a turtle, would still be addicted to drugs, you know. And so one of my goals is to get like the National Institute of Health, which is right here in DC. I'm in the prime location for people to make changes where they take the relationships that we have with these reptiles seriously enough to transform it into the medical and the mental health realm so that we can help more reptiles.
Yeah, I mean, I always say this too, and I think a lot of us share similar stories. And the fact that, you know, once we got into reptiles, like there was a major shift in our life where, you know, whether it's, you know, battling depression or maybe health issues or, you know, whatever people are experiencing, like it is that emotional support animal for them. You know, just having your animals around, being able to come home, you know, hold your animals, feed, you know, even feeding them is just so rewarding. Uh, and so it definitely changed my life, you know, as far as like I'm coming out of like, you know, I've always battled, well, not always, but like battled depression and anxiety and all these things. And like those levels have gone so far down. And even like doing the podcast, it's helping me get out of my comfort zone where I can, you know, talk to people that maybe I've never even met, you know, and have a conversation with them for an hour or two. You know, it's something that maybe like 2-3 years ago I never would have seen myself doing. So yeah, the whole reptile hobby, you know, the whole community, the animals, they've completely changed my life. You know, I mean, I feel like it's just getting better and better, but
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They help people. And speaking of helping people, I know that you do the 5K races for breast cancer.
5K?
Yeah, we
5K?
want to talk about that. We're going to talk about it.
Way further than that, Shay. No. So I do the 60-mile cancer walk. The 5K is like the 3-mile. I do the 60-mile.
I wasn't sure. I was like, wait, was it a full marathon, half marathon? I couldn't remember. So I was like, I'll go straight with 5K. I know it's at least that.
Yes.
But is there another one coming up soon?
That is in November. So I choose to do the one before. It used to be 8 a year, then it went down to 6 a year. So now it's 4 years. So I choose to do San Diego because if I'm going to walk 20 miles for 3 days, I like to see this, you know, and beautiful water, beautiful views. Right. I do San Diego every year. I started doing this walk in 2015 when my youngest sister was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. It was tough. It was tough. So as a sibling, you know, you facing the thought that you can lose your younger sibling, you know, and then our sons are, you know, my only nephews, you know, that are right here and that we're very close. All of that's playing to play. So my prayer to God was, now we were always doing the 5K, just as, you know, even her, we just did it because that was just the right thing to do, right? You never know when you're going to actually be the one with cancer. And so I prayed to God and I said, God, if you let her live, I promise that I would do the 60-mile cancer walk for the rest of my life, as long as and that's how I ended up doing it. So I've done it ever since.
Heck yeah.
Wow. Man, so let me ask you this. So how can we get involved? You know what I mean? Like what ways can we, you know, if we can't run, you know, walk that walk, like is there other ways that we can get involved to help support you or, you know, the people that are out there?
Yep. So, I mean, everybody supported me last year, you know, so when I posted to make donations, whether you donate $10, $100, you know, some people donate $500, whatever it is, it helps and it goes towards the cause because you're right. Everybody First of all, I will say that everybody can. If I can walk 60 miles, everybody can. And especially after June 2020, because I was told that after having a full hysterectomy, going into Cermino, the way that your muscles change, you won't ever be able to do that walk again. And I still can do that walk every single year at 3 years old. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. I do believe that. It's just the mental conditioning. What I would say is, and I would encourage anybody, because I did put out there that I want people to do it with me this year. I want the reptile community to do it here, because I think it would be a great way to put the reptile community on the map in a good positive light and showing us like unified together for something positive. I will tell you this: once you do it one time, you're addicted to doing it again because of what you experience doing those walks, seeing people who actually actively had chemo that morning, the day before, walking 60 miles. Like, you can't say I can't anymore. It's like this walking on literally like the crutches, the people 97 years old walking 60 miles. So it's amazing. So I look forward to it, to be honest.
So you've been doing it, you said, since 2015. So have you enjoying that? Have you like made friends, or have you met like people going through all that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
You make friends. I have so many pictures of me that runs around there on their promotions of doing this walk. Like, you don't even know that you're going to end up on one of their bulletins. I've seen me, and I'm like, that's me. I have in San Diego alone, one of the girls who walked with me the first time I walked San Diego, she normally meets me there whenever I go back to San Diego as well.
Right.
And then it's like another community. G. Coleman has a Facebook community, so we're kind of communicating all the time. You get familiar with each other. There are times that people literally almost pass out and stuff like that you help along the way. You create bonds. That's amazing.
So did any of those people that you met end up having the same passion for reptiles, or did you get any of them into the reptiles?
So I know of only one person that probably, because we don't, it's if you're not, like, when I'm walking, it's very seldom that people, know that I'm even, I keep reptiles. This past walk was the first time that I walked with all my branding. But I do know of a person, because that person lives in California, right there in San Diego, who owns reptiles. But again, it's not like that's a huge presence in that particular walk. But it's it's discussed that we own reptiles, and that's why I think it would be a great way to actually, because you get a lot of communities that come together for those walks. And I think it would be great for our reptile community to do that. So this year is November 17th through 19th. The tough part, where a lot of people, like, walking 60 miles is easy. Sadly, the hard part is raising the funds, because you have to raise $2,300 to be eligible to do the walk, right? So it's harder to get people to donate $2,300. But what my mindset was always, I campaign. I've always made the goal, but even if I didn't, I'm always prepared to pay it. It's a tax write-off.
Right. That's true.
I'm committed to it either way. It just helps, because for us, us going to California, no one pays for our room and board. No one pays for our flight. So it's a commitment. When I do this walk, it costs over $7,000 for me to leave Maryland to go do it, have room and board, our flights and stuff like that to do it.
Absolutely. Traveling is super expensive these days.
And the service is horrible. I'm still mad that I literally was supposed to have been home yesterday by 7, and we didn't get home until 1 a.m.
So I kind of want to go back in time a little bit. Hopefully I'm not like detracting away from it. But what were you like as a kid growing up? Were you like out chasing animals?
As an adult, I swear I am. The same anybody. I am the same as an adult. So
go ahead.
My sister made a post actually the day that the retic laid her clutches. And I read that post and I was like, she nailed it. And it's the same person I am now. So as a kid, I was athletic. I was a big reptile person. I was not just a reptile person, I was an animal person. I used to bring all kinds of animals in our house, and we lived in woods and by water. So my parents were screwed. I used to bring bugs in and everything. So I was always like into that. I was a cheerleader. I played basketball. I was a rapper. I made music. I produced music. I
So
ran
pretty
a
much you're
gang.
like the coolest person in the world for sure. You still are.
For football teams. Like I did so much. So I was very active, very popular. I was still very bold. I was known, I never had to fight for myself. I was the first person to show up to fight for other people. And I'm very similar to that now. Like I am very protective of the people that I care for. And so I would say that I'm the same person. Like, and people would tell you that. Like, I'm pretty much the same person now. The only thing that I would say have changed is that probably some of the decisions that I would have made when I was younger, I, definitely learned not to make those decisions. But I didn't make many major mistakes along the way in life. And the things that I did do, I never got caught. So life kind of went pretty good for me.
If it weren't for the reptiles, what do you think you would be doing?
So, my degree is in mortuary science. So if it wasn't for, yes, Al is still a cheerleader. So when I graduated high school, I did like a fun fact. I did my own father's body. So I went to school for mortuary science. I went to a high school that was a health occupation school, Dunbar Senior High School, Baltimore, and I was in the Hopkins Dunbar program. So for my last 2 years of high school, my work study was at the funeral home. And after that, I went straight into mortuary science. I went from mortuary science into financial management and then to regional property management. And that's what I recently retired from August of last year. To do this.
I was gonna say, I was like, I was pretty sure she had a really solid career and then retired now. So.
Yeah, you just retired recently. Congratulations. That's awesome. So how has it been now that you're retired? Like, how is life? Is it any different, or are you still?
Life is wonderful. It's majorly different. And y'all, if it's anything that I would campaign for, so let me tell you, all right, because I know that this is why a lot of people don't do it, right? So to put things in perspective, I didn't have a simple job. I was well paid. The higher part of 6 figures, okay? It wasn't a little bit of the 6 figures. I was paid. A lot of people won't leave the money.
Right.
Because the money is kind of guaranteed when you show up for somebody else 2 weeks and you know you're going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks and everything like that. So a lot of people won't do that. And for a long time, that was my mindset, me working, now don't get me wrong. My husband always worked as well. We had 2 incomes, but we also blew a lot of money. Like we took vacations every single year. So it was ways to do this. So what I would say to anybody, I know it sounds scary. It sounds scary for a lot of people, but I got kind of So what happened for me was when I look at my goal board for January 2022, God was telling me it was going to happen. I didn't even know it. And so this is why I'm so spiritual. When in July, it was that I realized that my boss, who I loved, when I tell you I loved my boss, she was relocating. The company was relocating her to Florida. I can't go to Florida because they can't have retics. I can't have burns. So that's out. I made it. When I came to that region, I told everybody I wasn't working for anybody else but her. She knew that, everybody. People say things. One thing about me, when I say it, I mean it. I already thought about it. I analyzed it. So once it come out of here, I meant it. And so the day she told us that she was relocating and all of the other regionals, all of us under her was on the call. Everybody had a reaction. I just said, okay, bye. I hung up the phone. She already knew what that meant. And I was prepared to give my notice the next day. Time I talked to my husband, babe, I always wanted to do this full time. We prepared for this. Funny thing is, we started literally preparing for it like before I even started breeding, like buying stuff and everything. Like, so for us, we didn't have to put out a lot more money because the money was already spent.
Right.
the animals was already here. So at that particular time, it was just getting my husband to say, because what I didn't want him to do, I never want to put a burden on my husband. I'm not one of them women who feel like a man should work so hard that he fucking dies. Excuse my language, that he dies. Okay. So for me, and I say this to my husband all the time, look, it's no job out there that should take all of you. And if you have one like that, throw it away. So the answer to your question is, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And if we look back to August and now, we live better now than we did when we were both working. It's insane to even put in words. Put it this way. Yeah. You guys were around. Life ain't no different for me. I'm still living the same way and even better. Like I'm able to do things now that I couldn't do, like travel at the whim.
Yeah.
I can say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go do this. All right, and I'm gone. Fortunately for me, I worked for a company who invested in and I have to give them that credit, because their investment, I knew that I was a partner of the company, but I looked at these statements. I never looked at my long-term hold and what my value with the company really was. So when I made the decision, I talked to my company's attorney and he broke down the numbers for me. And I said to him at the time, I said, well, I am wealthier than I thought I was. I'm definitely retiring. And that's what happened. So it was definitely a blessing, and I'm grateful for God for the position that I'm in today, because without him, it wouldn't even be possible.
For sure. We're like repeating each other. Man, I'm trying to think.
What was your next? You want to do the?
I already forgot what I was going to say. Well, we do have a couple questions for you, real quick. He's got a signature question. I'm gonna ask mine after.
Oh, I got you.
I like these questions. They're like my favorite ones. They're like my favorite icebreakers. I'm always curious to see what you're gonna say.
All right. So mine is, if you could have a pet dinosaur, what would it be, and why?
It would be an alligator.
An alligator.
All right.
I would not want Tyrannosaurus or anything like that. That's too big for me. I know my limits. I think the biggest dinosaurish lizard that I would want is the alligator, and that's a fact. Like that's a dream animal for me. And I want to the same reason I want to show people that they also, you can have a relationship with them. It just takes some time to build that trust and manifest that relationship together.
Yeah. Although it's such a predator, it does actually seem like that's one of the safer choices. Come to think about it, because we do know how to deal with alligators, even if it was a huge one.
We see enough people deal with them.
I think that might. That wasn't bad.
And they typically give you enough warning if you know where it's at. You know what I mean? You know where it gives you enough warning. You know when to get out of the way. But that's no different than anything else. Let's think about a ball python. You go in there close, get ready to strike. You know to get out the way.
Exactly.
Can you own one where you live, or?
No. So in Maryland bans nothing. They really don't. I promise you. Like, we are one of the states that really don't care if you have anything, as long as it's not one of the animals that's native to Maryland.
Oh, okay.
But in I want to say it was 88, because growing up, everybody, the community I lived in, like I said, we had woods, we had water, so everybody had alligators. All like the older men in my community had alligators. But they stopped it, I think it was like 1988 or 89, because so many alligators were being released and things like that. And for America, an alligator can live here pretty much a long time. It won't die probably into the late winters.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so fun. I'm loving the comments, guys. Keep leaving them.
What was your question, John?
So my question, Nicole, is if you could hybridize any two animals in the world, what would they be? Just for fun. We're talking just for fun. Like, what do you think would be cool?
That's so hard for me because I don't want to hybridize anything.
No, I got you.
If I would have, could have, should have, it would probably be a Asian water monitor and a Aki monitor.
Oh, okay. Is that possible? I don't know. I don't know much about
No,
that.
I
I
can't
guess.
even imagine how
Okay.
it's kind of like. How would they
Yeah,
even do
yeah.
that type of thing?
No, I feel that. All right. So Nicole, are you ready for Pass or Gas? I don't know if you've been watching my show the last 3-4 weeks. I've been doing a segment called Pass or Gas. For anybody who is new to my channel as well, I do a segment every week called Pass or Gas. It's where I come up with a list of pictures of animals. We see if you like them or not, Nicole.
Yep.
And I actually think so. For anybody watching, I think I'm going to switch it up next week and try something different. But I'm not going to spoil the surprise. I'll talk it over to Shane and see what he says. All right. So this is what we call Pastor Gas. All right. So Nicole, I have a lot of, I don't know, I think I have like 25 or something, maybe too many today. But first up, we have a smooth credit. Nope.
Pass. No.
You passing? So
Okay.
you just want an alligator though, huh?
David.
All right. I'm glad you passed on the first one. Most
Yeah.
people don't. So this is a green tree monitor.
Gas.
Yes. All right. All right. Baby. Well, it's a black dragon.
Gas.
Straight up. Straight up. A
Pass.
bumblebee. Pass. We're passing on the bumblebee dart frog.
Pass.
Outer blue. Okay. All right. So we're passing on the dart frogs. Are you into dart frogs? Do you own any?
So
Not
you know,
really.
there's certain animals that creep me out. That's one.
Oh yeah. That's one of them. All right. I guess. All right. All right.
That is
All
the
right.
scorpions.
Next up, Australian frilled dragon.
Gas.
Those
Yeah,
things
those
are
are awesome.
they're so amazing. They are like dinosaurs, just like in Jurassic Park. Like it's just like.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, it's
god!
been one of those recently.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be really fun. They'd be really fun. What's up, Kent and Chris and all the people I didn't say hi to? What's up?
Yeah,
Everybody.
Now this thing, I've never seen this before. I don't think. Shoot, what does it say? I got the electric blue gecko, the day gecko, but it's all blue.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Gas.
Yeah, I like that one.
I didn't know that.
That's beautiful.
Now we've got an albino granite black tiger reticulated python. Yes. All right. Albino genetic stripe.
Gas.
All right. Let's see if he'll pass on this one. Sapphire phantom.
Gas. I'll take any reticulated python.
Okay. Now, okay, so I'll ask you this while we're on the subject. So is there like a certain like more for something you're shooting for, or like a certain dream reticulated python or something?
So no, really, honestly, I love them all. I'm gonna be honest. There's
Okay.
the only reticulated python. I'm not gonna say I don't love it. Is the jaguar, and it's not that I don't love it. It's because it's kind of similar to the spider and ball pythons. It can have some neurological, but it's the most beautiful. It's also one of the most beautiful reticulated pythons as well. My favorite would be the cow, the golden child cow, very specifically
Oh, yeah.
cow, the one that I own. I own all the ones that was a must-have for me. So it was the golden child cow, the tiger pie, had albino, and then the one that just had babies. I'm hoping that she produced babies just like her, which is the Motley golden child Sunfire.
Oh, right. Gotcha. Yeah, I think you're one of the main reasons why I want to get into reticulated pythons. Yeah. But like any questions I have, I'm just gonna ask you, you know? So when I get my first one, like you'll be the first person I hit up to be like, all right, you know, should I go in on this, or you know, so yeah, I love hearing about your retics.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And the kid that won the reticulated python at the auction, the USR auction this past weekend, he actually, this was his first, and literally within 15 minutes, I just ran down all the best practices he should use to keep the snake high already was, because I prove to people all the time, you can pick up anybody's reticulated python if you approach it the right way. And this snake wasn't. Okay. I held it for hours. I handed it to this kid. I showed this kid you can touch his head, touch his tail, and everything. And this is not my retic, it's not your retic, you know. So this goes to show you that if you just keep these practices up, you already got a perfect animal.
Yeah. All right. Well, we might circle around to that. Next up, VPI T positive Snow Jungle Key West. I don't know all what that means. Boa though.
Definitely gas. I like boas. And specifically,
yeah.
I'm gonna say labyrinth fire though, so I would say pass.
Pass. Okay.
Ooh.
All right. That thing's so beautiful. How are you gonna pass? All right. All right. Now we're getting into some really, really weird stuff.
Okay.
I did show this on one of my other shows. Thai giant cherry. Nope, I already see it.
Pass. Too many legs.
I had to choose some weird stuff.
Pass.
Passing, whatever that is.
See, this is tough because, okay, so gas if it's in an enclosure, pass if it's out.
Understandable, 100%.
I hate bugs and spiders, man. Spiders scare the hell out of me.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. This one is a leopard puma het puzzle ball python.
Gas.
All right. Black pastel fire yellow belly redhead spot nose clown. That thing's packed.
Yes.
Super good.
Yeah. All right. Pastel leopard confusion clown het pie.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, you might like those. I don't know. Okay, maybe. Banana lesser G stripe clown possible cinnamon.
My pass.
All right. I thought you might say that. I do really like it, too. But that's all right. Black pastel. Did I already show this one? No, I don't know. Black pastel, fire, red stripe, yellow belly, clown, het, desert ghost, 50% het, G stripe.
Oh no, it's different. Gas.
Yeah.
Lots of things, red and cool.
Last two. Pastel maple, possible double het, puzzle pie.
Nah, pass.
All right. Bamboo, acid, blackhead, orange dream. Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that is all I have for the pastor gas. Thank you so much for playing. Thank you everybody for playing in the chats. So let's get into a little bit of ball pythons, and then we can get into your podcasting, USARC, all that stuff. So with your ball pythons right now, so now that you're starting to breed and everything, what projects are you focusing on?
So I'm pretty much focusing on breeding most of my darker genetics into combining it with some of the lighter genetics. So like right now, I have the Super OD, banana, orange dream, yellow belly pod, het pod, and he's going to the Ivory pastel pod. Just to see if I can actually like lighten, putting some color into the Ivory pastel, or some color into him to make him darker. And then the other big project that I'm working on is I'm actually pairing some of my het desert ghosts. So I have like the pastel soft for het desert ghosts going to my visual desert ghosts to, of course, produce hopefully some more visual desert ghosts. And then I also have right now is my pastel inchy going to champagne, my pastel inchy champagne, and she's going to the champagne het desert ghost as well. But I have 4 girls right now that grab it. And the other one is the Ivory pastel. Yeah, I have an Ivory pastel who is Hetfapod, and we paired her to my blackhead gravel. So we're hoping to see what comes out of that. So yeah. So my goal is continue to put more darker genes in. I'm still continue to work for clown. Most of my codoms are het for pod or het for desert ghosts.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm still so small. There's like 100 genes I still need. I mean, I don't need to work with 100, but I still need like everything. I don't have any DG yet or anything, but DG or hypo? DG or hypo?
So it depends. So, okay, by itself or with DG. Now, I do like combinations of DG and hypo together with a third codom. I do like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, separate. Stop. Separate. It would be DG.
Okay. So you said you got 4 Gravit girls. I could be wrong, but are these your first clutches?
Yep. So my
Your
very
first
first
clutches?
was the retic. So she's
Yeah.
but my ball python clutches, absolutely. So I
Yeah.
paired 5 girls, and it looks like all of them are going to go. So I'm very
Oh,
lucky. The first 4 are definitely past ovulation. They're just waiting. They already had their pre-lay shed. We're just waiting. We just have one
nice.
now who is actually in the midst of her pre-lay shed, and she will be laying eggs, soon as well. So
That's
all of them have gone. Or will
that's
be
gonna
gone.
be exciting. Like I can't wait to see those, pop out
Yes,
and everything.
and you
Like
will thanks
it's gonna be
incubator.
cool because like it's exciting to see people get their first clutches and everything. Like I'm excited for you. I'm excited for Bosa. Bosa's coming up in like 2 weeks or something, or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's gonna be exciting, but it's like really cool to like see people have their first clutches because like like we all get into it and we kind of like choose our beginner snake, or our first couple snakes and everything, and then to see someone go from like I'm just getting 1 ball python to like now I've got 30, or now what I mean, like all it's like overnight. It's for some people, you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
but it's really cool to see people like find their passion and then start running with it. You know what I mean? Because they might get a snake and then all of a sudden they're like on Instagram and they find out there's this whole community. Because that's what happened to me. It's like I bought a snake, wasn't looking to breed or anything, bought a snake. Then I started, the shopkeeper was like telling me about all these genes and like what I could do if I bred this snake to this snake. And it's like, what are you even talking about? But then, you watch videos and it snowballs and you find like the social media aspect of it and YouTube, because you got to watch YouTube videos. And then that's how like we all meet and everything. But like, it's so rewarding because I only started, I think, less than 2 years ago. Like I think April 2 years ago is when I bought my first ball python. You know what I mean? And it's been such a journey. But I've seen so many other people like enter into that. Same with Shane too. Like getting in that COVID era. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that got into it during COVID, and yeah. And so it's really
interesting to see the different paths that people take as well, as
That's
far
true.
as genetics that they go with, the rack styles they go with, thermostats. I mean, everybody does their own thing their own way. Whether you use paper, cocoa husk, whatever you may be doing, it's funny to see that like we are all in this together, and yet it's very rare to see 2 that are doing it exactly the same. Like 2 people that have the same setup or are doing the same projects. Like there's always going to be differentiators in there.
But that's what's I think so unique about ball python breeding,
Yeah.
And even just watching how it evolved over the years. It's
Yeah.
still so much that has yet to be figured out. The same thing with reticulated pythons. The unfortunate thing for reticulated pythons is that the community has made them to be seen as such horrible pets, and they're not, or horrible animals, they're not. Actually, I think it's funny. I think that they're easier to take care of because they're kind of like self-sufficient. Like kind of like the older child compared to the younger child compared to ball pythons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and their personalities are so more distinct. Like you can really you can connect with them individually more. So one of my goals is just hoping to keep changing that stigma so more people can say, okay, I can actually have them, and just know that it's not. I don't want no one to take it lightly. It's definitely a large animal. You definitely have to have the right mindset going in that this animal is going to cost you over a lifetime. You can't. I upgrade enclosures all the time based on the needs of my animals. That will never ever need to be upgraded, but then there's some that I see them doing certain things. I call up the vendor and say, hey, all right, I know you just did a 10 by 10 16 months ago, but now I need you to do a 14 by 14. When can you get that? But that doesn't happen often. Like right now, T'Challa is the only one that's in a 10 by 10 because she is the only one who showed at an early age that she was going to do that much movement, going high, everything like that. All retics are not the same. This about people keeping them in enclosures. I have no problem with people who keep them in 8-footers for all their life if you let them out. I do have a problem with it if you just keep them in there all the time. And I think that's where we got to rethink things. But I do believe that you have to pay attention to them and determine which ones do need bigger space or which ones need to be out more.
100%. And it's so interesting because like you single-handedly like changed my whole perception on retakes. I never had like a bad perception on them or anything. You know, I would love to have one, and I always probably have, but like hearing you say, oh yeah, let them like roam around the house, I let them exercise, stretch, get out, like I think that's so important, you know what I mean? And then like hearing you say that, like I've been letting my boa out, like, you know, as much as I can, and I've noticed a huge change in him. Like he's always been like really chill and everything, but like he just observing him while he's out is like I can tell he loves it, and he gets all curious, and you know, like my ball pythons, they just want to hide, but like my boa, like he'll chill, kind of like observe. Maybe he'll want to like climb on something, but like I realize like it's very important for an animal's mental health to have as much enrichment, as much like free roam as possible, you know, given the species. But like with the retics, like I think a lot of people don't understand how important that is, you know?
Right.
They probably have big old snakes just in these tiny little bins, and you're like, that's not a way to live, you know?
I mean, I do think we're entering the age of, you know, where so much information is out there that people are starting to really figure it out, so that, you know, I don't think there's that many people out there anymore with super tiny enclosures for these huge snakes.
Hopefully not.
I think that there's been enough people that are like, hey man, we don't do that anymore, you know, like that's not what they're supposed to live like.
But also too, people are scared of big snakes, and I think that's what your mission is, to like help people understand you don't have to be scared of them. Like there's not a reason to be scared of them. You know, understanding them is what is important. You know, so
just like with any other snake, though, if you don't understand your corn snake, you might get bit. The difference between a corn snake and a retic is like the difference between a Rottweiler and a Yorkie Poo. A Yorkie Poo is much meaner. His bite, though, is not going to hurt you as bad as if that nice Rottweiler bite you. You know, so it all depends. I think that a lot of what I hate seeing is like, you know, when T'Challa laid her clutches, and everybody was like, well, how did she act? Well, I recorded it, you know, like she was fine, you know, they know you, they know you're not trying to harm them. Now, the natural reaction is who is this trying to get my babies? But once they realize it's you, they just give them up. Now, if you poking and aggravating at them, I'm sure that's going to type of reaction, but we don't do that around here. I also, to what you were saying, John, even with my boas, now, the retics are way more active, but I have retics.
Exactly.
Right. So I got boas who I can let out right now. They will stay in this room. My retics, I would say out of the 8, 6 of them would stay, 6 of them would go away. 2 of them would stay in this room. So you can have a retic who don't want to travel too far either. But if you don't, you will never figure out which one is which. And that's the problem. That's why you get the pushing and all of that stuff, and snakes messing up their face. They need to get burn that energy, you know.
Right.
So do you so you got your retics at kind of free roam when you let them out and things like that. Do you do that with any other animals? You said sometimes your boas.
Every animal. Even with some of the ball pythons, the ones who like to be out, we let them out. You know, now they're not on the floor. Because you know they're so small, we don't want to step on them. You know when a retic is out, you see it. It's a big line of a retic.
Right.
So you didn't gotta worry about that. But when my grandkids is here, any of the active breeding ball pythons, they take them out and they're sitting there and you know just letting them engage. And sometimes it's just holding them and let the ball python just kind of you know glaze into them and stuff like that. But you know any animal that wants to, I would tell you anything. Your large lizards, you have to. Your lizards, you have to. Their brains, like the retic brain, is constantly going, and I think they will be depressed if you don't.
Yeah. I have to say that the lizards that I have are a lot more work than the ball pythons are by far.
Absolutely.
You know? And any snake for that matter that I have, I also have a emerald tree boa, and you know, not much maintenance. They're really easy to take care of. the lizards, it's like every day you're feeding them, every day you're cleaning up, no matter what, like if I went out of town for a couple days with the snakes, they'd be fine. The lizards, no,
Right.
but I'm also breeding rats, so it's kind of just all in the same cycle because you can't leave the rats too long either, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how many animals would you say you have at home?
Ooh. So this is the easy. So if I don't count the breeding ball python, I know I have 22 pet snakes.
Oh, okay.
Not counting them. So
Yeah.
I add them. So, and then think about the lizards. I would say about 80 before
Okay.
you get to,
Nice.
the actual hatch. Once they start having babies and stuff, that number will change.
Right.
But I would say about 80.
Sweet. Now, what is the future of Ladytis Exotics? What's your ultimate goal?
So my ultimate goal is to continue to build the brand. But I
Yeah.
don't want it just to be based on ball python breeding. My bigger goal, even breeding, is secondary to what my biggest goal is, and that is
Yeah,
to
I understand that.
a legal platform for us right here in Washington, D.C., where the reptile community is taken seriously in the medical and the mental health world. That's my that's one of my greatest accomplishments, is making it where we won't have to have these government challenges all the time, because our animals are just like every other pet in every other household.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good goal. I like that.
100%. Are you, man, you already are like doing everything you can to to make that happen. I definitely see it in like just the way you live your life. Like you are a living example of that. You know what I mean? I think you kind of have to be if you want people to be as passionate and as enthusiastic about it as you are. You know what I mean? So that's really awesome.
Weekend, working with US ARC, I actually met one of the directors of Board of Health right here in DC. So I got her card, and we'll be actually meeting up and having that discussions and seeing what next steps we should take politically to make sure that address those concerns. Like, I think it's crazy that people in Florida can't own a reticulated and Burmese python. Why can't you? Please explain. Let me show you, what these animals are like. What is your real argument, other than the fact you just don't want the big snakes to be there, So having those type of conversations, whereas though, instead of saying you can't, because yes, we do have to, understand that there is sometimes, there is an issue with invasive species in Florida. But what can we do other than saying you can't have them, to allow someone to be able to have them and regulate to some extent? I'm not talking about full regulation, but like, if you have to get a permit, like I know when you buy a ball python here in a pet store, you have to fill out a form, you have to register the animal. So if you are requiring us to register the animals, I think you should. Like, I think people should have to register their animals. I don't have an issue with that. Just don't regulate how many a person can have. That's my thing.
Well, I kind of feel like that kind of leads into the same segue, though. Once they get your information, then they can start building laws against that. And, I do feel like it's a slippery slope by having them just even registering. Also, that's kind of a way for, like, for example, government for the government to be able to get fees out of you and stuff like that. Like, say, it costs $5-10 to register an animal and stuff like that. It's all generating revenue, and I would rather they didn't. I would rather they didn't.
The thing is, the reality of our government, we live in America, and if it's not going to benefit them, the same thing with marijuana. Marijuana was illegal for so many years until they figured out a way that they can actually make money off it. And then down, everybody can smoke. The same thing that you can see with gun registrations. You're starting to see more and more, because they realize that every time someone go get a gun, they got to pay a $10 fee. And so therefore it's benefiting us now. So therefore they're going to allow it. I am okay with you regulate. Someone can come up in here right now. I can promise you, your zoos are not keeping your animals the way I am. So therefore, come up in here, regulate, do whatever you got to do. I'm all for you coming and doing inspections, because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and doing it right. So if you need
right,
money,
but
absolutely, come in here. And but the thing is that if what I want is that we can kill the argument of banning anything, because this is what you want us to do. Tell us what you want us to do. Do you just want to know what's in my house? Okay, here you go. This is what's in my house. Now what? Now, if you want to know because you want to regulate it, or like you said, make laws, then we're not getting anywhere. So we need to get ahead of that, because the reality of it is that the government know what we're doing. We already in existence. You know, we have established businesses where we're saying that we making this amount of income from selling reptiles online and things like that. They know what we're doing, so they can regulate if they want it. What we need to do is like say, here's whatever you want, here you go, and leave us the heck alone about it.
So I got a question for you. What do you think is the biggest threat to the reptile industry? Is it the invasive species? Is it the bad caretakers? Is it, just people want to make money?
It's the bad keepers. It's the people who make poor judgments, like in New York.
Yeah.
Already illegal to have a reticulated python. Why is a reticulated python showing up dead on the side of a road in New York? So if you know you're not supposed to have something in the state that you live in, don't have it. Start there. Now, if you want to have that, then start to go to the meetings that make those decisions. We don't show up enough. Sure. I said all the time, we talk about all the breeders we have in Florida. All the breeders in Florida, and not 100, 200, 300 people should be jumping into those meetings, walking into those sessions, and it doesn't happen. And please don't tell me because you have a job, because you also breed snakes. So how about putting in your notice for that day, saying that you're taking a personal day, that you show up for the meeting. But no one realizes that what happens in Florida is the epicenter of what's happening every single place. And we in here in Maryland, although we can support FWC, we can, from where we sit, we can say, rah, rah, we're behind you, we support you. But if we don't live in the state of Florida, our impact means nothing, because we don't pay those politicians' bills. So what my goal is that there's so many breeders in Florida, and I want you to ask any breeder in the chat, tell me when the last session you was at.
Yeah, so actually Shane and I were talking about that like a couple weeks ago. We're like, USARK is great, it's amazing, but if we're just giving $40 a year, like that, are we really doing our part? We're not actually at the courthouses, we're not, in the streets, and
to lead
whatever,
absolutely, and to lead off of that as well, I gotta say, I wish there was more people posting like, hey, there's this meeting coming up, you guys should all show up and stuff like that. Like, I never know when or where this stuff is taking place, and I can guarantee you there's at least half of us out there that are exactly in the same shoes as me, where I'm like, I don't know, where do I go? Who do I talk to? I don't know.
USARK is important. So let's separate USARK and USARK Florida. As a member of USARK, every alert is emailed to you. If you click that button to email me alerts, it's emailed to you. Now, let me tell you what the problem is, Shane. I was very honest with Phil. I don't want to read all of it. I'm going to be honest. I want to go to the part that matters, but
exactly.
All of it matters. But so that's
what I know.
Is for. That's what Phil is for. That's what he's doing. So where people talking crap about, where does the money go? And all, how much time that man spends in hotels, how much time that man has to spend reading. Have you ever had to read anything your attorney ever sent you? How long it takes to actually call that and then deliver it to us? Like people who don't even want to read all of that stuff. I think that's the other issue. The other issue is that what Shane is saying is absolutely correct, but that is not the case for USARK Florida. I will give all of those super people like J Reptiles, military morphs. I get more alerts on USARK Florida on Instagram than I get USARK. So they are putting it up there. The problem is people are not showing up. So there are people who are putting the gas to it, burning it up. And we can't be reactive. You got to be proactive. And what J Reptile is trying to do, and what Military Moves is trying to do, and what Elizabeth with FWC is trying to do is to get everybody to be proactive. There's not enough and I'm saying this here, breeders in the state of Florida, there's not enough proactive representation to back up the people who need you to back them up. And if that doesn't happen, shit is going to go downhill in Florida, and ball pythons is even going to be an issue. And we're not going to be able to get them here because everything kind of filters through Florida. So we have to do better as breeders. We always talking about how it's so many of us. Show up.
Right. Show up, guys.
Right.
Come on.
Right. Absolutely.
No, 100%.
And then we started actually talking about that another day too, as well, on how many people do you think that actually do know either are reptile breeders or go to the shows, you know, like overall in America, how many people do you think that is that we're touching on? Do you think it's a 5%, 2%, or 10%?
2% of the nation.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too.
But if you take that 2%, majority of that is in Florida. Like that's the epicenter of the 2%. And that is where I will tell you this: in the state of Maryland, if they called the sessional reptiles, you would see people come out the wall.
Right.
As many times they're calling for it in Florida, again, I have every breeder to check themselves. When is the last time you've been to one of those sessions? I spent a whole 3 hours on one of those calls myself, and I'm here in Maryland.
Wow.
That's the best I can do, but I'm not a breeder in Florida, so I can just roll up. Because if I lived closer, I will roll up. Harry on and said, pull up. That's what you got to do, because it's not going to change if you don't, and it's going to continue to get worse. People complain. You can raise all the money you want. The way that legislation happens is when you see people walk into a legislative meeting and that representatives see that this is 500 of my district, 500 people from my district who pay my salary, who voted me in. That's the only thing that matters. If you can send $500,000 to FWC, if 500 people don't show up, nothing is going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe this is a little bit redundant, but actually, I got 2 questions. One, I guess, starting with the USARC, is how can somebody get involved? Is it just a membership? Like, you know, we don't live in Florida. None of us, you know, I know like Kike is in Florida and things like that, but like someone who can't really be there, like, I mean, like we're in Texas. There's not a lot of laws on animals, you know what I mean? Like, what can we really do to make sure that Florida is like taken care of? Because like, can we reverse what's going on in Florida? And you know, I don't know.
I mean, you can write letters, but what power does that letter has when your return address says you in Texas?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
That's it. That's the answer. Like I said, I spent 3 hours on a call. I probably had one of the best speeches that was on that call. But I'm in Maryland.
Right.
So I got to bring this up. Maybe you have some insight on this, Nicole. So Adam at Proper Royal says, here's the problem, though. FWC is not a legislative body. They are not beholden to any votes or voters. That commissioner can make the laws. There is no one in FWC elected.
So that is part of the problem. However, they're still making decisions on behalf of FWC. So we can, whether they are or whether they're not, who are showing up to those meetings, right? So like, I will tell you, the one meeting I watched, the legislative officer, he was rude as crap, but he can be, because Adam and 499 people wasn't screaming like that man down in Flint, Michigan when something go wrong. You see what I'm saying? So that's regardless of who's in control, if no one shows up, it doesn't even matter.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It doesn't matter. And I think that it's like we constantly hear, you know, well, you know, if they had no power, right? So like, okay, I'm sorry, because let me go back to Adam just said something. That being said, we do need to make our voices heard, but my power is in the ballot box. That's what I'm saying. So you see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Adam, you're saying exactly what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that you can send $500,000 in donations to USARK Florida. If you don't have 500 people saying, I'm not going to vote for you, if you don't stop this law, if you don't stop this ban, if you don't hear us out, then it means nothing. And that is what is not happening. That
Yep.
is right there. Exactly.
Well, and I also think that there's a lot of like people not knowing who the legislators even are.
Yeah.
Coming up in the ballot, what they're,
I
No
can't
idea.
say that. I live in Maryland and I have
Right.
Elizabeth's number in my cell phone. You see what I'm saying? That
I
one
don't know
thing
who
I
that
can
is.
tell you about on
Yeah, we don't
Instagram,
know, but
those people who are really care, like I keep saying Jay and military morals because I think they post daily. Everything that you need to know. There's always an FWC video popping up that I get the alert on. I cannot say that for FW. For anyone to say that they're not aware of what's going on with FWC Florida and they live in Florida, then you're not on Instagram because I know when I'm in Maryland. That's
I have no idea. I literally have no idea what's going on over there at all. But I don't live in Florida either, so
But I'm saying, so Shane, for me, I don't live in Florida, but when those things pop up, the reason why I have Elizabeth's number, what can I do from Maryland, right? But I can tell you, I cannot tell you that I don't see on Instagram live videos from FWC, live videos from USR Florida, live videos from Elizabeth herself, live videos from Jay Reptile Life. Like there's so many people, live videos from military moves that's constantly. And if I know it, then the people in Florida have to know it. And if you don't know, it's an issue, call.
Right.
We'll find out anything we want to know. When Beyonce tickets came, the first thing I did was try to figure out, where, how much, where can I get them from and how much they were. That was a click of a finger. Anything that's a public hearing is on right here on Google. If we want to know, we will find a way to find out to know the stuff we want to know. And that's what has to happen. But Shane, for you, you like you said, you're not there. The reason why I stay alert is because I understand how the two have to work together. USARK supports USARK Florida, but I know that if Florida fails on the level of these constant laws that come towards them, that it's going to impact me in Maryland one way or another. Even if Maryland never say that you can't have a ball python, right? I won't be able to get one shipped here.
Now that brings me to another thing that I had heard somebody saying the other day. I can't remember who had said it, but I heard somebody talking about, do they think that Florida's too far gone?
That's a good
to
question.
where it's, maybe we should start looking into other states instead of worrying so much about what Florida's doing, because Florida started the whole thing, but we could stop it there too. Instead of letting it spread through, we could stop the whole thing there. I don't know. I don't know how that opinion would work, but it was just something interesting I'd heard. I was like,
You're saying put like a circle around them and just like have them be their own thing and everyone else just like.
I mean, I don't know how that would work. Yeah, I don't know.
I would tell you this. It would kind of feel for me if someone says the Maryland crab was no longer in Maryland. You're taking a big part of history. And I don't think that should have to be. I don't think it's far gone. I think that we are now in a situation where we have to be hella reactive when we could have been proactive. But if we get these breeders who do financially earn of selling animals right there in the state of Florida and outside the state of Florida to care just a little bit to show up, I'm telling you, I promise you, I will plead that on the next hearing, that every breeder, let's say 90% of the Florida breeders show up to a meeting, watch a shift in the atmosphere. Watch.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Now, does everything that happened in Florida, now that's some of those are state laws and stuff like that, right? Over like a federal law, like where USARK themselves deal with federal, where USARK Florida is more on a state level.
So with any law, remember that it falls under different, like in Maryland, I'll use for example, you got the federal government laws on guns. So this is with the federal government, but the federal government also allow individual municipalities to have their individual laws. So if the municipality pass a law, you have to go by that state's law in that municipality. The federal government does not come into play unless there's a violation of the law in place. Somebody said it best. The best way to not have to fight a law is to never let a law get passed in the first place. Show up.
Yeah. So then, thinking that way, would we want a U.S. ARC for each individual state?
No,
that sounds like that would be the right way to go.
We fight
though.
No, because it's not necessary in every state. Let's not make noise where it's not needed, right? No one here in Maryland is thinking about a reticulated or Burmese python because they not one unless they see me take it to the park. You know what I mean? Like, so no one is thinking about it. It's not a big uproar in like places like Maryland or different states. So I don't think that you need to waste anybody's time on a matter that's not important. Right now here, they need to figure out how to keep crime down. That's what they need to focus on. Don't worry about no damn snakes. We need to learn how to keep people alive. We got big fish to fry. But I do think when it comes to Florida very specifically, the fight is now. You know, like it's now. There is not a conversation or legislation that has happened in Maryland since alligators and when boa constrictors was on the table a few years ago, back in '91. And even then, it wasn't, you know, a big thing with Maryland. Maryland was just kind of like, you know, let's see what the federal government say, and they rolled with that. We don't.
So earlier you were speaking about how in Florida now they have to be reactive where they could have been proactive.
Yeah.
If you started a U.S. ARC in all of the different states, wouldn't that be counting as being proactive to try to get ahead of the curve? So where people do start trying to push their laws on us, we already have something in place to fight back. Maybe it is a good idea.
You have it now. So if you go to any state right now and Google, so when I decide I want a pet right now in the state of Maryland, I go and I say, what animals, what reptiles are illegal in Maryland? What reptiles are illegal in Maryland, right? And then I pull that up, type it in, boom. It gives me the list. It tells me what website to go to and everything, right? We have that in place already. Regulations on what animals you can keep. The issue is if the federal government, this is why I say that what my wish is to have us to be proactive by having a seat in the federal government, because then it won't be necessary because we will be protected federally. Now you will have some state municipalities, but it's certain things that will never hit because like Florida, this is only an issue because animals could live in Florida. If you start talking about a retic in a berm in Maryland, no one's even addressing. That snake is dead tonight.
Okay, but a retic and a berm could absolutely live in Texas, no problem.
They can live
and
in
there's
Texas.
no U.S. ARC Texas.
No, not in Texas. They dying. When that heat it's 90 degrees, retics don't like, old berms do not like a lot of heat. They do not. You will kill them quickly. Right now, unless they are birthing babies, you're going to always see them on 78 to 82 at the most.
Okay.
So in most snakes, most reptiles, if they overheat. But the whole point is that to say that we want to like have it in to be proactive, have a conversation about it in every state. There are some states don't even realize these animals exist. I think that you create a bigger problem because now you're making certain people aware of something that they are not aware of at this particular point and probably never would be in the next 40 years. But I do believe there's a place in the federal level where we can be we could be the liaison for our local fish wildlife.
Yeah, I like that. Right. Yeah, that's smart.
For Texas Fish and Wildlife. And so if somebody at the state level has a concern, they contact Shane. And
right.
have a conversation.
I agree with that.
But that kind of makes me wonder, like, why did they start a separate U.S. ARC just for Florida, where we could have just stayed a huge conglomerate?
Because
I feel like there would have been more support by using it federally instead of just
probably those
locally.
people could focus on Florida and everyone else.
Right.
Right.
But then you're limiting yourself on the possible funds coming in.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
Florida has
I see
too
both
much
sides.
going on. It's too much going on.
Yeah.
So if you think
Yeah.
about all the things that's hitting USARK now, like let's say you
True.
get an alert in Maine, you get an alert in Minnesota. USARK got Florida got something going on every day. We might see one state show up once a year, one other, once every 6 months. Florida got something coming up there are a group of people focused on this crap every single day.
Absolutely.
It's insane. Kayla's we got Kayla in here. Thank you, Kayla.
What's up, Kayla?
So I was just shouting you out, Kayla, just how great of a job that you and Jay, I feel as someone who doesn't live in Florida, who keeps everybody aware of what's going on as far as sessions and talking points in Florida. So I just was shouting you out about that, but definitely I just think that the breeders have to come together and show up. That's going to be the change.
Yeah. Yeah, I love all the comments. Everybody.
Yeah. Definitely, they got
That's awesome.
different things going on.
Right.
But the reality of it is that if everything shuts down in Florida, you better believe. Because, like I said, it's like how Maryland is the crab, reptiles is the Florida. So if someone says Florida can't have all of this, you better believe every other state is now questioning their thought process on reptiles.
Reptiles, I also think maybe
Florida was the image of reptiles for so long.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if they can get it right, if they can come up with good legislation, good procedures, or whatever it is that we need to kind of reverse the damage that we've done, it might be a great place to start for everyone else. Have it they can get it together, then maybe they'll be a good example, for how other states should go. But at the same time, they're the bad examples, so all the other states are oh, look at what happened to Florida, but yep. We could also be oh, look what happened to Florida, how nice, how amazing, what a win, but yep. Who knows.
And if you look even at USARK, think about how many other states have been hit with some type of legislation that USARK was able to dead right away. Florida is fighting back at reptiles every single day. Like I said, there's people who are just there just to do that. They ain't got nothing else better to do but to sit there and fight our reptiles.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple quick more questions for you, Nicole. And then we'll kind of wrap it up a little bit. But what advice do you have for anybody who wants to get into reptiles, breeding, whatever, anybody who wants to get into this? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes. So I said this back in 2020. First, the thing is reptiles is not for everybody, right? You have to be Kobe Bryant passionate about basketball to be a reptile keeper. People sometimes get caught up into, okay, that person got a cool snake, and they want to go out here and get a cool snake and not realize the life. Reptiles are one of the very few animals that will outlive us. So you got to be able to think all of that through. So I always say this, you really don't have to give advice to someone who wants to get into reptiles, because the person who really wants to get into reptiles is so passionate about it that it's just something that's going to happen and they're going to be successful at it. I look at myself. Absolutely. And I look at the money that I have put into reptiles, that if a certain person called me and asked me for the same money to get a kidney, I'd have thought twice about giving the money. And I'm serious. That's passion. And so I think that most people who get into this, they already know. I think the biggest thing is don't get in over your head. Do things legally. And the image that you put out there of your animals should be positive images, and educate people on the animals you have, because that's another part of why we fight. There are people who really think that I'll use retics for example, that every reticulated python that you come across is slashing and thrashing at you, and I have never seen it.
Yeah.
And so
I mean,
there's put out the image animals are really and not just do things. I mean, it's a fine line between that whole social media and YouTube and content creator thing, that I get that you want likes, but I promise you there's better ways to get it. Like show that animal do something amazing. Like know that you're in another room and follow you there to another room, or like can respond to a click. You know, different things like that that will be more impressive than showing an animal who's striking for food out the enclosure and missing somebody and, you know, having a food.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, with this day and age, it's such a squirrel mentality on most viewers and stuff like that, to where people only want to see action shots and this and that. Also, people are pretty disturbed. Lots of people like to see that stuff. And especially, I mean, whenever we first started breeding, or whenever we first got our snakes, you know, when feeding day would come around, we were excited. You know, we're like, sweet, we're gonna feed, it's gonna be healthy, you know, keep this going.
You know, and you should be.
So feeding videos, I mean, I make some, but I hate making them. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, don't cut yourself out just because, like, I don't really think that it's harming any reptile thought processes in the first place. Because for one, there has never been a good snake movie in the history of ever. They've never made a movie with a snake in it that was like, oh, look at this nice snake. You know,
be the biggest one that we know of.
Right, and it's
so unrealistic.
Snakes on a Plane, Anaconda, all these snakes in the movies. Even Jungle Book, the snake was evil. You know, they do nothing but try to make snakes evil in the first place. So I really think that a feeding video is the least of the issues.
You know what you never see in the movies? A snake eating a rabbit. You want to know why?
People love rabbits.
Yeah. People love rabbits, right? They do. Yeah.
I'm sure that's how some people feel about rats, but more people hate rats.
The movie showing them eating people, but you've never seen even a snake accident in the movie eat a rabbit.
Right.
And that's the eat people's part, or a rat. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they eat. You know, and that's the thing is how the world perceives it. I always go back to a pit bull. My family has always had pit bulls, and they are big babies. Some people think we're crazy because my pit bull, our family pit bulls, will hang over my grandkids and stuff like that. Some people think that my grandchild shouldn't have, you know, own and manage, you know, some of the largest snakes. As her grandmother, I know what she's capable of. And there's certain snakes that you would never see her manage it by herself, just because of the weight of the snake. Not because I think the snake intends to harm her, but it can because it's heavier her, just like she can't hold a Rottweiler.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So I think that what we just really, really need to understand and I'm not, like I said, my issue with feeding videos is when you have dun, 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 and you wagging and, you know, and no, like that's never.
You make a show out of it, and it's just not.
You make the whole show of animals.
You make a whole spectacle, and you're like,
I breed my animals food, and I'm telling you, it's so hard to go want to feed them. It's not a whole parade of songs going on behind it. I'm like, oh Lord, I don't want to do this type of thing. But I do think that's a place, Shane, for educational videos. Like I used to love when Sean did his sessions where he would show him the day that he feeds all his ball pythons, all frozen thawed, and he's literally just feeding the snakes. You know, it's not like no gruesome Jaws movie in the background or anything like that. And I think like even when people who have larger reticulated pythons, show them that you can put the rabbit in there. You ain't got to wiggle nothing in front of retic. You can put a dead rabbit in there, and that retic is going to try to kill the dead rabbit. And that's my issue. You got people who have to show the retic coming out the cage, which is not smart, because now you're training your animal. He's out the cage, and it shouldn't. And you bringing it out there, and you showing it, and you're wrapping it around, and the poor animal's making all of this noise. That's not the image that. And I'm not saying that's what happens when they eat. That's the reality. You hear that? You hear the animal, right? But the people who are causing all these issues in Florida and everywhere else, that they use that dialogue against us, because it makes us look like we're like some type of.
Do they really though?
Yeah, like some evil devil.
I mean, in all honesty, I understand where you're coming from by far, for sure. But at the same time, it's like, are we really damaging how people look at snakes? Because I'm pretty sure people look at snakes in a really negative way as is.
We are.
So just feeding them, that is a part of it. You do have to be comfortable with that.
Friends, Shane, my personal friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never let them see that, because they will never ever come to the conclusion that this animal is as innocent as I think it is, right? So when we say that, we say that as animal loving reptile people, to know that feeding out snakes is what we do. That image to me,
it's a part of it.
Horrible. That's how they eat. But I will tell you this.
Right.
I don't eat chicken that I see slaughtered.
See, I'm not a fan of that idea. I think that, you know, if you're willing to eat the dead animal, you should also be willing to kill that animal.
I agree. I tell everybody that every day.
You know, like, yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
That's your thought process. I will not eat an animal that I see get killed. You know why? Because I saw it die. That's my emotional.
That's most people.
I mean, and that should make you realize, like, how precious that meat really is. It should make you value that much more. In the same aspect as the Native Americans will use absolutely everything from whatever they kill, which actually brings me to a next idea of, so whenever one of your animals does pass, you know, it's all sad.
Ooh, I know where he's going. I know where he's going with this. We've had this conversation.
Yeah, it's you know, what do you think about people doing stuff with the remains of the animal, especially out of respect for utilizing whatever is left of it? Or are you just feeding it to a, you know, cobra, or are you just gonna throw it in the garbage, bury it? What are you doing?
They make it like wet specimens.
Wallets. It goes back to what type of keeper you are. If my animal died, I'm not feeding it to another one of my animals. I can't do that. I love that. Like, it's equivalent to one of my children dying and me feeding it to another child. See, that's the thing. What part of the animal world are you really, like, the way that I feel about animals? That's not going to happen. Now, if a egg died in the incubator, would I feed it to my water monitor? Yes. You know why? It died before it, in my mind, before it even had life, and it does provide value to my water monitor. But if that's
right, I mean, that's the idea, right? Is that, like, you know, in all honesty, also people are turning their bodies into trees now. You can literally, when you die, they cremate you, turn you into a seed, you become a tree, and there's going to be literally a haunted forest where, you know, everybody's dead in trees. So I mean, that, you know, in that aspect, people do still do that type of stuff where they use it for something else. Your dead body can become a ring. People turn themselves into diamonds.
See, I'm okay. So this is my thing. Do what the heck you want to do. I just don't think everything needs to be televised. And that's an aspect of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like down to, like, you know, people who want to tell people, you know, who people sexuality should be. I don't care what your sexuality should be. I just don't want to see your sexuality, whether you male, female, heterosexual. Like, you know, that's my thought on it. Do what you do in your bedroom. That's private, you know.
I feel that, but we're also not posting anything sexual on YouTube. It's not allowed in the first place, to where with these animals, it's kind of, people are following what we're talking about, our experiences entirely. So if you're not filming everything, you are kind of putting on a false facade in a way of where, oh, I only want to show the good stuff, but don't want to show the negatives too. I mean, the negatives do matter because it is a part of it.
What's the benefit? No, not really. Like, my animal dying and me feeding it off is not something that's necessary for me to show people. I would never.
Why not?
Like, it's not necessary for me to show people. That's something that if you want more of a, I guess, to me, that's, what are you doing it for is the question, I guess. Like, you know, you see what I'm saying? Like, there are people who are doing it for the purpose of you.
I think the conversation that Shane and I have had is, like, let's say you produce like a world's first, and it just dies out of the egg, and you just want to make a wet specimen, or you want to turn into you want to turn into like a watch band or something. Like, is that
you want
wrong
something
if it naturally dies, and you're like, I really respect the beauty of this animal?
Right. I mean, I could see how it would get out of control quickly by people then starting to breed for specific things just to kill
Yeah,
them. So that's where it kind of gets real messed up there.
Yeah.
Where like I feel like if it's your animal that you loved and it died and you wanted to do something with it, that's cool.
Well, that's what ball pythons
I'm
are.
not into people that they can and cannot do. I can just tell you, for me, I wouldn't. Right?
Yeah.
I get your point. I personally would not want one of my animals used and made into a pocketbook, right? But I can't knock the person. I just saw something where a woman took her son's dead locks and had those put into her head, and I thought that was amazing. To somebody else, that may be insane. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really into. I think that as long as it's not harming anybody else, it's not for us harming the visual of the hobby itself. Like, I don't think I'm hurting anybody. Y'all never saw one of my retics eat. Any of y'all hurt by that?
I don't know. All right.
You see what I'm saying? Y'all know, y'all heard what it eat, but you never seen it eat.
Huh.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it really matters. Right. Honestly, I think that everybody already knows how snakes eat. You know?
So that's my
so I mean, if some people want to see that stuff, let them see it. You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind watching one of your retics eat. I'd be like, dang, that's a big old snake. Oh, look, it took it down well. It knows how to attack, and you know, hitting in the back of the neck towards in the front. There's all types of differences.
That's something I was sent to Shane. Shane, you want to see it because Shane is a reptile person. Shane knows that big snakes eat big prey. You know what I mean? Right. It's not something I'm going to put on my YouTube channel.
See, I just feel like you're kind of leaving some good stuff out.
People. Remember, your YouTube is not just reptile people. That's a public place. Now, if it was just reptile people, shoot, no problem. But there can be this 12-year-old who sees my snake eating this 10, 12-pound rabbit. She owns a rabbit, goes to her mother, and that creates a whole nother thing that we just don't need to have to deal with.
See, I feel like that actually brings me to a whole nother side of the world to where we're being too soft.
So I believe in censorship.
Too soft
I
on that.
The world is not censored enough, and that's the problem with our world. So I come from a different world. Like, I hate the music that our children are exposed to. When I was a young girl, the stuff that you could hear on the radio, you had to go buy it on a CD. You could not see sex at all on TV, like real sex that you can see in regular TV shows now. So for me, I'm all for that. It's a time and a place for everything. That's just me. I'm old school with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm almost 50. I think the problem is that we didn't let the world open up too damn much, and that people have too many opinions in other people's lives because we allow it to open up too much. Certain things should be censored. I remember going to school in high school. You didn't know who was gay or who was straight. None of our business. We're here to go to school. Why are we having conversations about who's gay and straight? Now I got a 5-year-old who comes from school asking, why is the girl kissing the girl? I should not have to explain that to a 5-year-old. So I am big fan.
I will say I'm a little bit more on your side, Nicole, just because. Well, I mean, I get both your sides. I
gotta go away from that one.
Yeah, no, but it's all right. All right, I think that's enough for that.
Because you asked the question, I think that's part of the problem.
Oh, okay.
Ask the question, and we don't want to really, because we don't agree, really have the conversation. I said, made it very clear. I always agree with censorship because I come from another place in time. You talk about the chemistry that me and Dre have. One of the reasons why I chose him as a co-host is because Dre is half my age, and we don't agree on a lot of things when it comes to you know, how the world is now compared to when I grew up. I can tell you though that what's part of what's screwed up with the world now is that there is no guidance, there is no censorship, that there is no right or wrong anymore, and that
there's no standards. There's no standards.
I feel like that's not necessarily true. I just think that they're pushing a specific agenda or prerogative to try to get people to do what they want to do.
No, I think
Government controlled, all that stuff, conspiracies. We can go in depth on all of that stuff.
5-year-old in school coming home being exposed to, I don't care.
And why? And why is that though? It's not because of censorship. It's not censorship that is needed. It's not censorship that those kids are being pushed on that. It's literally the stuff that the teachers are teaching. We need to be looking into schooling, stuff like that, seeing what our educational system is going on and all that stuff. If we're talking about schooling, I mean, I do have an 8-year-old and a 14-year-old both in school right now. And, you know,
I got my whole opinion on that.
8-year-old's got a whole bunch of stuff going on, going this and that. You know, that's why I don't really want to get into it, because it's a long conversation.
I'll say this. I mean, I know it's like not reptile related, but I think now, since we've been through COVID and everything's like online and all this stuff now, it's like every classroom should have a camera in it that the parent can access anytime they want, see what's going on in the class.
Sketchy. No way. No way, dude. If you think that's a good idea, you are literally like aiming for pedophiles to be able to watch your kid in school.
No, only the parents have access.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Only the parents have access? Bro, I can get access to anybody's stuff online. And
I'm just saying there needs to be more accountability.
Nah, that's a bad idea. I would not want people to see that.
I agree. Yeah. But again, Shane, I lived in the world where we didn't have the problems y'all have in today's world. And the reason why we did is because there was regulations, there was morals, and there was principles. And
well, one of the things is there was also far less censorship. There was far less censorship back then than there is now.
No. You could never.
You think no?
No. When I was growing up, you could never look at Channel 5 and see anybody like really having sexual intercourse like you can now. You could not hold on. You could not look at Knots Landing and hear the B word, the F word, the D word, the stuff these kids are exposed to from regular TV. I'm not talking about
it's insane.
Hey, you got to take it a couple steps back though. I mean, you start going way back to, like, for example, when Dave Chappelle was first starting off, he was clearly like what was it, David Letterman, when he brought him on the show, there was like open racism and all this stuff. All these jokes were like openly racist and all that stuff. I don't think that's flying these days. I think that the way people were treated was way less censored. Nowadays, it's way more censored. You have more of a, I don't want to say a moral standard, but it is.
No, I see what you're trying to say, Shane. So you're talking two different things. So let me tell you how I see their perspective, right? And I'll use it now. So in high school, I'll use that for example. In high school, I didn't know who was gay or straight until they became adults. We were like 30. You could assume it. You can almost it. It just was not allowed to be displayed. And so what you were saying when you and John was talking, it's a parenting thing, right?
Right.
But because parenting has become so watered down, that's the facts. We have allowed how little girls can dress at 13 and 14 years old to high school now. We couldn't dare do that when we were growing up. So we're talking two different things. Censorship in the sense of we are less censored now, because the stuff that you hear on the radio, Lil Wayne couldn't say the stuff that he say on the radio when I was growing up. The closest you would get was to a song. And I'll use an example like Shaka Khan Tight Fit. I didn't know what Shaka Khan Tight Fit meant until I was grown. That was a very nasty song now that I'm older. Or if you want to use another song, The White Horse. If you were never exposed to The White Horse as being what it was, you thought the song was talking about riding a white pony.
Right.
I mean, sit us down and say, Nicole, don't sing about cocaine, because that's what that man is talking about. They waited till you got older to process it. We're giving kids now information that they cannot process through regular TV.
Bro, turn that out.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, guys, my phone was dying. I was like, crap, I got comments pulled up and everything. I'll say this though about all this is I grew up like super strict, super religious, super like never. Yeah, I mean, I know you're older and everything, but like even growing up in the '90s, like yeah, there's like none of that on TV. Everything was pretty innocent, like you know what I mean. And now like you turn on TV and there's reality shows for
See,
for
okay, so did
It's hard
TV
for
get more
parents to parent.
sexualized?
Elias
yeah,
Here's
way
one
more
other thing.
sexualized.
Okay, so
Elias said
TV
in
may
the
have gotten more sexualized. However, growing up, I had a few friends that were gay and got the shit beat out of them often for just being gay. Where nowadays that type of stuff is a hate crime. Back then, nobody gave a crap.
It was a
So I
hate
mean,
crime
there
back
is a
then,
big
though.
difference.
It was a hate crime back then, though. The difference was
Yeah, but nobody cared.
people were not that comfortable, right, to say what they truly are and what they truly were. So the positive of the world today is that I think that you should be free to say that this is who I am, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I totally agree with that. However, I think that you should be of that age of consent, just like your driver's license and everything, to be able to have those conversations in a school setting. And so the watering down of parenting.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of it being in a school setting.
Yeah,
but
I don't like that at all.
The problem is that it's everywhere. So I'm going to Elias's point. Elias screaming parenting, and this is the problem, Elias. You can't parent the way that you used to can parent. You know why?
Right.
You have to shut your children out of the entire basic world. Like I'm talking about regular TV, they wouldn't be able to watch. And that is the problem. So that's where censorship shame.
Well, and that actually brings me to a whole idea on the idea of not so much as worrying about censoring stuff, but explaining to your kids why things are the way they are, or why this is and why that is. Giving them a more transparent view on the world is far better than trying to hide the bad stuff. They're gonna find the bad stuff either way. But when you find it, like, for example, when I was a child, everybody said, oh, smoking weed is so horrible. It's so horrible. It's so horrible. I found out, guess what? Not that bad. Now, smoke it all the time.
Right.
Why?
He's saying not that bad for you. I can tell you there's people
for a lot of people
weed who it threw them off of life course. But again, that's two different things. I want to go to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you can't parent in a world where you can't even restrict your children anymore. Like for us, it was you didn't hate curse words unless you had the explicit version on the CD. It's on the radio and it's on the regular radio. And so I, as a parent, I should not have to have certain conversations with my children. And I've always felt that way until they were appropriate age. I did not put them in settings that they should be exposed to certain things, and therefore the TV shouldn't expose them to it. The radio shouldn't expose them to it. And the world we in now makes parenting harder.
I would agree with that because
I mean, I do think it makes it harder, but I also think that, just being proactive, explaining things to your kid is a much better solution than having someone else step in to tell you what you can and can't do.
Right. So let's talk about sex. I didn't have
That's why I don't like censorship.
Sex with my parents until I was ready to have sex. My parents should not have came to me when I was 5 just to have a conversation about sex because I'm going to be exposed to it sometime out there in the world. Like those things should be. It's nothing is age appropriate anymore. That's part of the issue for me.
Yeah, that age has gone down from like you learned about this when you're hitting puberty to now you're 5 years old.
Yeah, I mean now you gotta know all this your extra stuff,
which is like when I was like.
I think here's one big problem that most people are facing. That I want to say most people, but I see a lot of these new parents that are doing this. They are letting their child parent them. Yeah, they're letting them make the decisions. Like, who's the parent here?
Well, that's the new world because again, growing up, if you disciplined your children, you didn't go to jail for it. So this new world,
right? That's a good point. We got to bring that back.
Change. It's just like I do agree that when something occurs within the person, like it's just part of growing up in puberty. Like for us, my mother always made it clear as females, if you ever thought that you was going to be sexually active, to me, my mom was a nurse, so she can make sure that we were protected. But I can promise you that no one else was having a conversation with me, or I was not being exposed to that prior to that conversation because of how we were parented. So it's tough to what Elias is saying, to parent your children the way that they used to be parented. Right? Because they're exposed to things before you want them exposed to it. You used to shelter your children. to a certain degree. And I grew in the hood. There were certain things going up in the hood I didn't even see until I was grown because of who my mother and father was. I bet not go in that drug house because of who my mother and father was. Now it's on TV. Snowfall.
See, and that's the thing. Growing up, I knew exactly which drug houses were which drug houses and why to stay away from them. Because my parents did the job as well. So, I mean, it's not that I never knew what a drug house was. It was that I knew, and they said, hey, you don't want to do that. You know, my parents were proactive in that aspect. And I think that there's a lot more of that needs to be happening, not just with kids these days, but hey, reptile owners, what's up? Be proactive, you know, like all these guys are trying to take away your reptiles, trying to put these laws. And that's why I'm just like, hey, I'm not for more constriction. I'm nah. Let the boas do that. I'm going to stay out.
I think that we are at a place where we need regulation. And I do agree that we have to watch as far as that regulation goes. But we do. And the reason
it always goes too far.
No,
it always goes too far.
That's our fault, though. Because the stuff that happens
it's also going to be our fault to start it. If we start more control, then we literally put it in motion, put the plan in motion to have them take away our stuff on a later date when it turns tyrannical against us.
Right? So this is how I look. And I look at everything that I have in here. I will welcome a government official to come in here any day.
They will tell you that your size is too small of square footage. How would you know? Like exactly. They're gonna make up these arbitrary rules that we all have to follow. Say you say you have 80 animals, right?
Right.
You have 80 animals. Okay. Say they say you need a minimum of an 8,000 square foot house.
Now because they will have to grandfather what I have in. But if they say going forward. Like, because there's, remember.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't like that. I don't want more. I don't want more.
Because I think the problem is with us not being regulated is that there are so many irresponsible people, right? That's going to cause us to have nothing. Nothing if we don't regulate. So for me, as a reptile owner that I am, come in here. How much do you want me to pay for each one of these enclosures or each one of these animals? I'll pay that. I think that actually, same thing I said about buying reptiles. I think that when they started becoming cheap, you started to get cheap people keeping them. And so therefore, that's the image of what it looks like we all are. I'm all for paying whatever I got to pay to keep my animals responsible. My only rule would be, if this is what I'm required to do, and that's it. I don't think that your fear is that once they come in. No, I'm saying we come.
You'll never get them out once they come. Once you invite them in, they will never go away, and they will only get more and more powerful. And it's happened every single time with anything. You can literally look at any structured law, and it gets more and more.
I see what you're trying to say, and I can't say that I agree. I'm a person I will always believe, and because I come from the world of management, policy and procedures work, especially when you got people who are not used to policy and procedures. And I think that if you really want to keep reptiles, like I really want to keep mine, I will do whatever I have to do within reason to do that. And if that's for you to come and have to come.
I mean, and I agree that I'm gonna do the exact same thing as you, do whatever I can to keep my animals. However, I'm not gonna go and, offer these people like, hey, why don't you guys come and give me some more regulations so I have a tougher time to get more animals? Or, oh, I'm sorry, I only have a 2,000 square foot house, and according to how many animals I have, I need a 20,000 square foot house. Or,
I agree with some of that. I think that should be regulated. It's like, if you hear me say all the time,
man.
How many times I say I have 8 retics, and why do I say I only have 8 retics? Because at some point, I'm going to run out of space to grow them for the term of their life. Right? Everybody don't have the responsible decision making to make that decision. This house is big enough for all of it. I have to determine
to whose point. That's my question. Is it's big enough for all of them in the average reptile breeder? Yeah. In your mind, yeah. Is it going to be in the people that you elected to make these decisions for us? What if they decided, no, it doesn't need a 10 by 14, it needs a 30 by 30? And now you got all of these that got to have 30 by 30s.
They have to, they will have to grandfather me in. Remember how laws work?
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is you're avoiding the problem yourself, but you push the problem to the next person. The next person starting up, then they have to do the 30 by 30.
What I'm saying is that if you grandfather these in and you tell me everything else have to be 30 by 30, I'm for that. And let me tell you why. And I'm gonna be clear about that. There's so many irresponsible keepers. I can do that. If that's what you want me to do, everybody don't need everything. Everybody shouldn't have what I had because you don't have the space. I can't have what Tom Crutchfield have because I don't have.
Yeah, but they don't need 30 by 30. And to tell somebody that they absolutely have to is the problem.
I would say that that's where the conversations come up, Shane, because you say they don't need, as a reticulated python owner, I am a person who don't have a 30 by 30, but I can tell you that a retic will be happy as hell, a full-grown retic and a 30 by 30.
All right, now say they decide to do that with ball pythons. The point is not the animal. The point is that having restrictions telling you where and how big it should be by some random person makes not a good thing for us.
To keep it,
you know, if it was ran by, say it was ran by US Ark, okay, right. Say it were ran by US Ark, people that love animals, it would be a good idea, but guess what? It won't be. It won't be ran by US Ark. It'll be ran by some random lawmaker that knows nothing of animals.
Hey, do you realize that we're going to come to a place that we won't be keeping nothing because we have people who are not rational, responsible keepers like yourself? I understand.
See, and that comes back to the whole idea of you're letting a couple of apples spoil the whole bunch. And that's why I don't like regulation. It's because then those couple of apples do get to spoil the whole bunch.
It's not a couple. It's not a couple. It's a lot.
It's well, mind you, there's not. Earlier we had talked about 2% of the population in America. Now that's 60 million people.
In that 2%, about 70% of that 2% are people who should have said enough is enough, or they are not keeping the animals to the extent that they should be properly kept. And that's why a lot of people don't want somebody coming in their house inspecting. I am telling you right now, so that I can keep, I would rather for us to sit down and say, like I said in the beginning, what do you want? What would you like to see if I'm a ball python breeder? What would you like to see if I'm a reticulated python owner?
We're gonna have civil discussions and
see, but that's the problem. Is it's not going to be us discussing this. Is the problem. If we give somebody else our power, we no longer have that power.
It is. We go back to what FWC. The problem is it's not that it's not us, it's we're not showing up. Anything that involves you.
And do you think it'll be any different with more regulations? No, it'll be the same problem. People will still just not show up and they get to make whatever laws they want.
We will leave this at this. I will tell you that I am a person of regulations. And I'm telling you that we're coming to a point that I will be the person voting for regulations before it's that we can't keep it all. And I am all for that because there is a lot of people that keep irresponsibly, keep too many animals, keep more than what the threshold of space that they have. They are hoarders, all of that it's not about.
I think that those people are being phased out. I think that those people are being phased out, honestly, and especially all of us always online showing our animals, our enclosures, showing what to do, what not to do. I think education is a huge thing, and it's on all of us.
Facilities who show us online one thing, and you have went into their house and saw something else. That's my whole point. I would rather for it to be an entity to say, Nicole Tisdale, in order for you to keep these animals, this is like venomous. Venomous have requirements. They are required to follow guidelines to keep venomous. You know, one of the least touched, you know what? You don't hear Florida talking about venomous snakes. You don't hear people in other states that allow talk about venomous because they are already under some type of guidelines. Not that they can't keep them, but they have very specific guidelines they have to keep venomous. I think with all the money we spend into reptile ownership, that if before we can't keep them at all, I would absolutely welcome anyone to say, this is what the guidelines that we're going to follow. This right here and leave it at that and move forward to it. Move forward on it. That's just my take. I'm not afraid of guidelines. I'm not afraid of the law. All of that. I'm in a position because of the reptiles that I choose to own to challenge any of that and to challenge all of that. And you're more than welcome to come in here. And I'll say it again that these animals are kept better than some of your zoos. So go there first, then come here, and then let's have that discussion. I understand
but it doesn't matter if yours are, because what you're doing is taking away so many others because of how you do it. Oh, well,
No,
not everybody has to have the same plan.
We held to
not everybody has to do it the same way as you.
Okay, then you may not be able to keep 8 retics. That's my point. Then you may not be.
Not everybody needs to do it the exact same way as you and still be able to keep the retics.
So
that's my point.
Shane, we're going to let this go because I'm going to tell you right now. As a person who sits in the big snake community, I would love to take a lot of people animals and say you can't have them. And I am all.
I mean. Now, mind you, I do literally rescue any animals. Like, for example, I have a friend that works at PetSmart. He ends up having customers that come in, don't know what to do with their animals. I rescue animals constantly. So it's not a whole idea of, oh, people don't take care of their animals. But those people that don't take care of their animals quite often weed themselves out to where they're never going to be successful at it.
I've been doing this 32 years. How long have you been doing this?
I think that's irrelevant.
Okay. No, it's very relevant because I'm ready to tell you right now. 32 years ago, the issues we didn't have them. The more and more people who start to keep, the more and more years. I'm just giving you facts. The more and more.
I would have to say, okay, so I started whenever I was 15. The first snake I had gotten, I was 15. That was 19 years ago.
Okay, so that's 19 years ago. So over the years, 32 years, the issues that we're seeing, I want you to go on the news and see how many times you saw a reticulated python found dead on the side of the road 30 years ago. I want you to go.
But it's because you're going specifically with retics, and retics are already a thing. If we're talking ball pythons, haven't really changed at all.
To go on ball pythons and compare to the issues that we're seeing with ball pythons showing loose in Walmart now that we never experienced before. That's my thing. I'm telling you, over the years, it's gotten worse and worse and worse as far as keeping.
I think it's the opposite. I honestly think it's the opposite. If you look back 30 years ago, people were keeping them in just freaking bins, boxes, whatever. Nowadays people are really trying to make bioactive enclosures. They're trying to do better display cases. They're trying to do a lot. Right, but that's my point, is that after a minute of them having it, treating it bad, okay, is that animal possibly going to die? Maybe. We can't control everything, right? But by giving these people, by taking these people's animals away, you're also taking other people's animals away. That, for example, you're talking earlier about how more people need
animals away. I'm telling you that there should be regulations. I can tell you that.
No, you did say that.
Wait a minute. Did anyone say take animals away? Did anyone hear me say take anybody's animals?
Yes, you said that you would prefer to get a lot of people's retics taken away. Actually,
I said I prefer. I didn't say about the government. I said there's plenty of people who keep large snakes that I would love to take them away. Yes,
right, and that's my idea, is that just because it's the idea there isn't the necessarily like, oh well, this person does this person does that. When you single out people over the overall thing, then everybody has to go by the same. They get shrunken down. The whole thing gets shrunken down. So I see it being a bad thing. I see more regulations being a bad thing.
Texas, Shane, what do you have to do to drive in the state of Texas?
It depends, because a lot of people do nothing and they drive in the state of Texas just fine.
I gotta interject.
But they still do it, right?
Legally,
all right, guys. All right, we're done with that. Nicole, what do you got coming up? Where can we find you? What you got going on?
So, it's the usual 2 P's in a podcast on Monday, reptiles and cocktails on Saturday. I actually will be in the next 2 months meeting into Washington, D.C. to discuss some of what we're discussing tonight.
Wow.
Like what type of regulations that the states are actually looking for in order for us to keep specifically on larger snakes and lizards, not necessarily ball pythons, because it's not really a big issue or a big topic. But I can tell you that there are plenty of issues that's going to continue to arise if we don't acknowledge for the fact that there are a lot of people who are not keeping animals the way they should be kept. And when we say the way they should be kept, I'm not talking about whether you're keeping them in a rack or an enclosure. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about people who totally do not provide the care that the animals need. Clean water, for example, on a daily basis. Or people who animals who think that even with a snake that you can leave them because I'm in the military for 2 weeks. No, it still needs clean water. You know, it's a lot of those type of things that happen. And being active for me locally, for my humane society, I can just tell you that it's gotten worse over the years. Can't speak for Texas. I can just tell you in Maryland, what we see here is worse. You got younger keepers. You got more people in colleges abandoning animals at college. It's a lot. It's horrible.
That's crazy. See, and the things that I've seen, man, when I was younger, it was like nobody knew how to take care of like even just ball pythons.
Oh,
they were, doing either too low of temperatures or just a heat light, So, I mean, well, that's the thing is you're towards the reticulated pythons. I don't know much about that stuff. I can just relate my stuff towards the ball python.
Ball pythons was my first. I started out with
okay, yeah. So, I mean, I think that people have overall gotten better at taking care of ball pythons. Is there still bad apples? Of course, and there always will be. But are people now more educated than they were back 30 years ago? I don't know. Uh-oh, are we losing signal?
All right, I got. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you guys. Can you hear us?
Greg said, I'm sorry, Greg. What federal agency were you allowed to?
Did we lose ourselves?
Me personally,
Ladytis, can you hear us?
General, because that normally comes under Fish and Wildlife. That's going to always come back to the state, pretty much. The federal government is mandated, but it's going to always go back to the state. So it will be Fish and Wildlife.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we were like, oh shit, because it went black for a second.
Greg had asked the question, and I was answering Greg.
Gotcha.
What is going on in the chat? It's a whole nother conversation going on in the chat.
Yeah, I know that got crazy. I was like, let's debate animals.
I got 2 more questions for you, Nicole. First, who are you shouting out? Who you wanna give a shout out to tonight? Anybody and everybody.
The usual suspects. And we're gonna shout out all podcasters in the reptile community. All podcasters.
Hey, there you go.
All right. And last question is what message or piece of advice would you like to leave with anybody today? It doesn't have to be about reptiles, but just what message do you want to leave with everyone today?
I mean, I want to go back to one of the questions that I think Shane, or it might have been you, who asked earlier about doing this full time. I think that my biggest advice is that if that's really what you want to do, like if you're waking up every single day and that's what your heart is aching, or you're going to work and you're like, I'd rather be doing this, do it.
Right.
It's going to feel like a sacrifice when you do it, but I'm here to tell you it's the best decision that you can make personally for yourself if you're really passionate about, well, as you can see, as we are.
Yeah, exactly. Heck yeah, absolutely. Follow your dreams. Love it.
No, all right.
No, hey, I got nothing but love for you, though. I appreciated that. It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. I gotta take your advice, Nicole, and cause you have Dre, I got Shane now, and it's like, yeah, we might not agree on everything. We might think one subject is too sensitive, or maybe it's not. Whatever it is, we got our differences for sure.
And it's
but I'm actually glad you said that, because I was like, all right, we had enough of this. Let's move on. But it's good because these are important topics.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see somebody else's perspective.
I wish that we all can have those type of conversations, be passionate about it, and just the conversation. You know what I'm saying? And not Jesus, Lord, please, can we just do better with that? You can have a conversation, you can disagree and move on, and love.
100%.
Be so uptight about and just going at each other in this community because we are so
Right.
rare in its own. Like we said, it's a 2%. We're so rare in its own. We need to do better with our communication, and we're going to disagree. You know, we're not going to all say things. And like I talked about me and Dre, that age difference, and you know, even especially in the reptile community, how, you know, with the modeling of the snakes now, you know, it's very new. You know, that wasn't the way back in the day. So a lot of that, you know, is an adjustment. We're all coming from different places. So it's important to understand how to come to a happy median. I think it's the same thing when we talk about us as reptile keepers and then the government. The reptile keepers and the government find a happy median. So, you know, like it's not just taken away from us totally.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's the biggest thing is, you know, we all hope that it could be this collaboration of people and government coming together. It's just, unfortunately, I've always just seen it as us versus them rather than us working with them. You know, it's always just keepers versus the people trying to take the animals, you know.
But it is.
But I like that. I like the idea that we would be able to actually like collaborate and get stuff done together. I just it's sad that it doesn't happen more.
Work, because if we don't collaborate with them, then eventually, and you know, like I said, some of us are in states like Texas is not a state that I think that you really have to worry just because it's not as, you know, crazy as other states. Like Maryland is not as crazy as other states. But I will say, whatever happens in Florida is going to hit us at some point if it happens.
Man, I really hope not.
It's in Florida.
Yeah, I hope not, but that sucks.
Well, you know, Nicole, I want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on tonight. Like, you're amazing. I love talking to you. I love it when you even get in debates. Like, it's so awesome to like see you represent like who you are, what you believe, you know, the animals, you know, everything about it. So with that, I want to say, everybody, make sure you go follow Nicole's page, Ladytis Exotics. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to Heads and Tails as well as Nicole. And let's see, I think next week we have Keys Constrictors on. So I'm going to get with them tonight, you know, start working on that stuff. Sorry, I've been a little bit behind on everything with moving. I just, for those 2 weeks of me getting, you know, that week or two, me getting ready to move kind of, you know, but so we're getting settled into a routine. But everybody, I want to say thank you for coming out. Nicole, just stay for a second, and we'll kind of talk for like a minute behind scenes. And I'll play out this outro video, intro outro. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right.
Keep it cordial.